All right. We're diving into a topic I know a lot of you guys deal with every day,
Yeah.
rework, especially for those of you in target supply chain, procurement, purchasing, and manufacturing. I mean,
That big
you
one.
see those costs and it's frustrating.
Oh, yeah.
But what if we could minimize that rework?
Hmm.
Stop those dollars from just going down the drain.
Absolutely.
That's our mission today. We've got some expert insights, real-world case studies, ready to break it down.
And sometimes just understanding why rework happens
Yeah.
can be half the battle.
Yeah.
I was reading something by Marcelo Faria. He's an industrial engineer.
Uh-huh.
And he said, what makes rework expensive? One factor is the urgency of actions and tasks.
Ooh, that's good.
It just highlights that pressure cooker environment.
Yeah, everything needs to happen like yesterday.
Exactly.
And it just adds to the stress.
Right. So let's just break it down.
Okay.
First things first. Location of your supplier. Huge role in your rework strategy.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people, they think local supplier, no rework. Right.
It's going to be fine.
Yeah, and while it definitely offers a speed advantage,
Sure.
you can get things sorted out quicker because you're close by. Communication's easier.
Uh-huh.
But it's important to remember that rework can still happen,
It's not a guarantee.
even with local partners.
Right.
And
Yeah. So it's not as simple as, local equals no rework. What about when you're working with overseas suppliers?
Right, now you're talking.
That adds a whole nother layer.
Absolutely. And those long-distance shipments for rework
Oh, yeah.
can really eat into your budget and your timelines.
Yeah.
So one strategy that we see work is partnering with local inspection, sorting, and rework companies
Okay.
in the same region where your overseas suppliers are based.
Gotcha. It's like having a trusted extension of your team right there on the ground.
Right, so you've got somebody local.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So it's not always about eliminating rework.
Right.
It's about making that process as painless and cost-effective as possible.
Okay, so it's not about like never ever rework.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we make this better?
Exactly.
It sounds like building strong relationships with your suppliers is key here.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Amit Gautam, a printing technologist, said, work closely with suppliers to address the root causes of quality issues,
Okay.
rather than focusing only on penalties.
Oh, interesting.
So it's that collaborative approach
Yeah.
that can really make a difference.
So instead of just pointing fingers, it's like, let's figure out how to fix this together.
Exactly. How do we move forward?
Right. Okay, how do you build that relationship? Is it just communication?
Communication is a huge part of it,
Sure.
but it's also about being proactive. Regular supplier assessments.
Okay.
Those are crucial.
So you need to have a good understanding of their capabilities.
Absolutely. And how are they doing over time?
Gotcha. So it's not just like you set it and forget it. You're constantly evaluating, working to improve it.
Absolutely.
That's interesting.
And then another often overlooked element is training and development.
Oh, yeah.
Make sure your suppliers are up to speed on your quality standards and invest in training your own internal teams.
Right, because your team's got to know.
Everybody needs to be on the same page, singing from the same song sheet.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Huh?
All the parts have got to work together.
Yeah.
And speaking of machines, I think it's time we talk about how technology can play a part in fighting rework.
Ah, yes. Got to bring in the 21st century.
Right, here we're seeing advancements with IoT sensors and AI-driven analytics.
Absolutely.
But how are those actually being used to prevent rework, not just identify it after the fact?
So what we see here is a shift from reactive to proactive quality control.
I like that, proactive.
Take IoT sensors.
Yeah.
They can track everything.
Hmm?
Temperature, humidity, vibration, pressure in real time.
Yeah.
You get a 247 view of what's happening in your facility and across your entire supply chain.
So it's not just about having data, it's about having the right data
At the right time.
at the right time. But how does that actually help prevent rework?
So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say you have a coating supplier, and they're working with temperature-sensitive materials.
Okay.
If humidity levels get too high in their spray booths or curing chambers, an IoT-driven monitoring system could automatically adjust the dehumidifiers.
Oh, wow.
Or even temporarily halt production to prevent defects.
Like shuts it down? Nope, not going to do it.
That kind of responsiveness can save you a fortune in rework costs.
Wow, so it's almost like having a digital guardian angel watching over the process.
Exactly.
What about traceability? Knowing where a quality issue came from can be so helpful in figuring out how to fix it.
Absolutely. And that's where technology like blockchain comes into play.
Okay.
It creates a secure record of a product's journey
The whole thing.
through the entire supply chain. So if a problem pops up, you can trace it right back to the source and take action.
Not just fixing it, but understanding why it happened so you can stop it next time.
That's the key.
Okay, this all sounds great in theory,
Sure.
but I'm sure our listeners want to know some practical things they can actually do.
Right.
Thankfully, we have Abhilash Brahma. He's a supplier quality professional, and he's going to walk us through some of his tools for preventing rework.
And I like how Brahma really emphasizes starting off on the right foot, selecting the right supplier or manufacturing partner.
Right, that's got to be step one.
It seems
Yeah.
obvious,
Yeah.
but getting that initial selection right can save so much headache.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So he has this thing called a print process review,
Okay.
where you actually go through the prints, the tolerances, the specifications with your supplier to make sure everybody's on the same page about the expectations.
The mode assumptions.
No room for misinterpretation.
This is what I want. This is what I'm going to give you.
Exactly.
That's cool.
He also talks about a control plan and PFMEA.
POPMEA, what is that?
That stands for failure mode and effects analysis.
Oh, okay.
Essentially, you map out your entire production process.
Okay.
You identify potential failure points
Gotcha.
and then develop strategies to prevent them, like a crystal ball.
So you're identifying those weak links before they break?
Exactly.
That's brilliant.
But, you know, what happens if, despite all your best efforts, rework is still necessary?
Happens, yeah.
Brahma's got a solution for that, too.
Okay.
He says have a rework strategy.
Right.
Because, let's face it, even with the best planning,
Uh-huh.
rework is sometimes unavoidable.
Things happen.
Right. The key is having a system in place to handle it efficiently and minimize the costs.
Minimize the damage.
Yes. And what's interesting is he tailors his advice based on whether you're dealing with a local or overseas supplier.
Okay, so what's the difference there?
So for local suppliers, he emphasizes quick resolution
Okay.
through direct communication and collaboration.
That close connection.
Exactly. You're right there.
Yeah.
But when it comes to overseas suppliers, he suggests partnering with those local inspection, sorting, and rework companies that we talked about.
Yeah, right.
Minimize those costly international shipments and keep those timelines under control.
Gotcha. So it really is about tailoring your approach to the situation.
Absolutely. There's no one size fits all.
There's no magic bullet.
Nope.
And this brings us to another point that several experts have made. The importance of standardization across your entire supply chain.
Oh, huge.
We talked about it a little bit with training, but what does that look like in the real world? Is it just using the same terminology?
That's part of it.
Okay.
Everybody, from your raw material suppliers to your finished goods distributors, everyone needs to be on the same page about quality standards.
Okay.
You need clear definitions.
So what is a defect?
Exactly. How do you measure quality? What are the acceptable tolerance levels?
So everyone's speaking the same language.
Exactly.
Working towards the same goal.
Yes.
But it's more than just words.
Right? It's about processes. It's about metrics.
Yeah.
You need standardized procedures.
For everything?
For everything, from inspecting incoming materials to handling products that don't meet the standards.
So if something's wrong, what do we do with it?
Exactly. And you need to be tracking those key quality metrics
Across the board.
across the whole supply chain so you can see trends and areas for improvement.
So really, this highlights the need for communication.
Communication is key.
Just open, honest, frequent communication. That's the foundation.
Absolutely. When you have that, you can identify and address issues before they become big problems.
So it's not just about the system, it's about the culture.
It's the culture of communication and collaboration.
We're going to explore that further in the next part of our deep dive.
We've talked a lot about preventing rework, but sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, it's unavoidable.
So let's talk about what to do when things go wrong. How can businesses minimize the cost and the disruption when rework is necessary?
Right, because even with the best plans, stuff happens. So what's the game plan when you do need rework?
Well, a lot of it goes back to those supplier relationships. When you have trust and open communication, you can work together to find solutions.
So it's not about blaming each other.
No, it's about understanding the root cause and finding a solution.
And those supplier assessments we talked about.
Yes.
Those can really help, right?
Absolutely. By keeping an eye on your suppliers, you can spot potential problems early on.
Before they get out of control.
Exactly. And we can't forget technology's role.
Oh yeah, technology. We talked about how IoT sensors and AI can prevent defects, but can they help with rework too?
Absolutely. It's not just about prevention. It's about making the process more efficient.
So if you do need rework, it's smoother.
Exactly. Imagine a sensor on the line that detects a problem. It flags the item and sends it to a rework area.
Automatically.
Automatic.
That saves so much time and effort.
Right. No more searching through piles of products.
And AI can help too, right?
Exactly. AI can analyze the data from the sensors and find patterns in the defects.
So you're not just fixing the problem, you're learning from it.
Yes, turning data into insights.
And speaking of data, several experts mentioned standardizing quality metrics across the whole supply chain. We talked about that a bit, but let's go deeper. What does that really mean?
It means everyone, from your material suppliers to your distributors, needs to be on the same page about quality.
So it's a unified approach.
Exactly. You need clear definitions. What's a defect? How do we measure quality? What are the tolerance levels?
So everyone's working from the same playbook.
Exactly. It eliminates confusion and makes it easier to spot and fix issues.
And technology can help here, right?
Absolutely. There are software platforms that can track everything: audits, defect rates, corrective actions.
So you get a real-time view of quality performance.
Exactly. It's a data-driven approach.
Not just guessing, but using actual numbers.
Exactly. That's crucial in today's business world.
We've focused a lot on the technical side, but there's another element that's often overlooked: the human element.
That's a great point. We can't forget about the people involved.
What do you mean by the human element in this context?
Well, strong supplier relationships are important, but you also need to build a culture of quality within your own company.
So it's not just looking outward, it's looking inward as well.
Exactly. It's about empowering employees to take ownership of quality.
Giving them the tools and training they need.
And creating an environment where they feel comfortable speaking up about potential problems.
So it's a shared responsibility.
Yes, quality is everyone's job.
When everyone's thinking about quality, you're more likely to catch those issues early.
Absolutely. It's about making quality part of your company culture.
And that brings us to another important concept: continuous improvement.
Ah, yes. Always striving to do better.
The quest for perfection.
Maybe not perfection, but definitely continuous improvement. The business world is always changing.
Especially the supply chain.
Exactly. So you need to be adaptable and always looking for ways to improve.
So it's a mindset of learning and innovation.
Absolutely. Be willing to experiment, try new things, and learn from your mistakes.
And encourage your employees to do the same.
Yes, create an environment where people feel safe to share ideas and challenge the status quo.
That open communication is so important.
It's a key ingredient in a successful supply chain.
So we've covered a lot of ground: supplier relationships, technology, building a culture of quality, continuous improvement.
Lots of strategies to minimize rework costs.
As we wrap up this part, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought. We've talked about being proactive, using data, even the human side of things.
Yeah.
But what about you? What about your supply chain? Where are you seeing the most problems with quality control and rework?
Right. Where does it hurt?
Think about it. What's one thing, just one thing you're going to do differently after this
After today.
to improve your supply chain quality control?
It doesn't have to be this huge, complicated thing, right?
It could be small.
It could be as simple as calling up your suppliers.
Right, having a conversation.
Yeah, and really digging into those quality standards.
Making sure everyone's on the same page.
Uh-huh. Or maybe it's finally trying out that new software.
Oh, the one you've been thinking about.
Yeah, the one that's been sitting there.
To track your defects and see what's going on.
See where the problems are, yeah.
Or maybe it's about your team.
Mm-hmm.
Giving them more power, letting them flag issues before they get big.
Yeah, trusting your people.
Or maybe it's training.
Oh, right, investing in your people.
Sharpening those quality control skills.
So they can really make a difference.
Whatever it is, the point is, do something.
Take action, right? Don't just let this be another podcast.
Yeah, put it into practice.
Make it real.
Because quality, it's everyone's job.
Absolutely.
It's not just a department or a bunch of rules.
It's a mindset.
It's got to be part of everything you do.
It's got to be in your company's DNA.
And when you have that commitment to quality,
that drive to always do better.
That's what makes the difference.
Between just getting by and really succeeding.
That's all for today's deep dive. We've covered a lot.
Yeah, a lot of ground.
Taming the supply chain beast. That's a tough one.
Minimizing those rework costs.
Nobody likes those.
We hope you found it helpful.
And useful.
But most importantly, that you can actually use this.
In the real world?
Because a smoother, more efficient, higher quality supply chain,
it's possible.
It's out there.
It starts with that one step.
So what will yours be?
That's the question.
Until next time, keep those supply chains moving.